Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I feel like it's been forever since I've actually done one of these videos. I did kind of go on a little hiatus. A lot has happened since I have sat down and done an actual talk to the camera video. I am now a licensed cosmetologist. Some of you probably remember me from doing all of my tutorials. I'm on Instagram. My Instagram is Hi Felicia. I now have a TikTok. It's Hi Felicia. And basically for years, I have been reviewing curly hair products and giving advice on how to find your true curl potential. My hair used to be fried, dyed, damaged. I used to do relaxers, put heat to it. Through caring for my curls, I feel like it helped me to care more for myself. I call it curlfidence, this level of confidence that literally happens immediately when someone really can see the potential of their curls. And I think it's a beautiful thing. Now it's reigniting me to create content again and get back to the basics. I feel like there are so many videos now, and I love how many creators there are now, and I love how we have all these curly influencers, but a lot of the issues that I am seeing come from the confusion in the curly world. And so now as a licensed stylist and being able to experience so many different textures and so many different issues in the curly community, I want to start bringing information to you guys, not just from my own personal experiences, but also from what I'm seeing in the chair, in the salon, and hopefully that can help even more, and we can just continue this growth that we've had over the years. So if you have been someone who's an OG from the start, thank you for sticking with me. And if you are someone new, has happened to just find my channel, I hope that you decide to stick with me, and thank you so much for staying tuned. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. And now let's get started with our topic of today, hygral fatigue, aka moisture overload, aka water damage in the hair. Before I was a licensed cosmetologist, I did speak on hygral fatigue before. It was actually a collaboration that I did with a brand, and it did bring some information, but now that I am really seeing how curlies tend to take care of their hair, especially when you have a busy lifestyle, especially if you have a certain porosity or if you have very dense hair. I'm starting to see that there needs to be more information, because the look of shock on a lot of my clients' face when I explain to them that I'm so happy you don't have heat damage, but you do have water damage. I could get, if I could count, it'd be endless. It's insane how many people have water damage in their hair, and it happens in all ages, and it can really almost happen in all textures. I have just found that the tighter, thicker textures, it tends to happen more, or if you have very dense hair, or if you have a low porosity texture and you are not drying your hair with either a diffuser or a hooded dryer. Before we get into ways on fixing hygral fatigue and ways to prevent it, let's just recap on what exactly hygral fatigue, aka moisture overload, aka water damage in the hair is. When you wet your hair, your cuticle lifts and your hair is now in a weakened state. When you are constantly wetting your hair throughout the week, your hair is staying in that weakened state. After we dry our hair, our cuticle seals back down. If you do not allow your hair to fully dry, if you're leaving wet areas in the hair, on your hair, those areas that are staying wet, the cuticle is staying lifted, and hair has memory, and eventually it will just stay lifted and your hair will stay in that weakened state. So think of it now, because your cuticles are lifted, when the light is reflecting off of your hair, you're not going to get all that nice, pretty shine. It's going to look dull, frizzy, puffy, and that's why you see the puffy roots, or you'll see a strand of hair. It'll be a beautiful coil, and then all of a sudden there's like a poof in the middle. That is an area where maybe that hair is not always drying, and now it has hygral fatigue. I usually notice it in my clients right in the back of their hair. I call it the little ponytail area, because when we soak our hair down, especially when your hair is thicker and you pull it up, that area is not going to be receiving any air to help it to dry, so it's going to stay wet. I also tend to notice it in the other areas where the hair just tends to settle with hydration, and the moisture kind of settles and the hair is staying wet. I also notice this in my clients that wet their hair daily, either for styles. I live near a military base, and so my military clients, they have thicker hair and they have to soak their hair down. I notice this a lot with them. I notice this with my teens. I notice this with anyone who wets their hair completely to refresh it. And once you start to get the hygral fatigue, it kind of becomes a natural habit to wet your hair, because you're finding that your hair looks best when it's wet. But the only reason it's looking best is because when it's wet, you're getting that hydrated look. But the minute the hair dries, it's going to go back to that puff. It's going to go back to expanding, and you're not going to really have that nice sealed cuticle. Hygral fatigue can also happen when you are constantly giving your hair moisture, but you are not giving your hair protein. Everyone's hair needs a little protein. Some textures and hair types need more protein than others, but all hair is made with protein. So do not fully be afraid of protein. It is good to have a healthy fear of it because you do not want to go protein crazy and then have the opposite of moisture overload, which is protein overload, which is when your hair feels extremely dry, extremely brittle, and it can literally snap. We want to have balance. It's all about balance with hair. If you're watching this and you feel like you have hygral fatigue, I am going to actually be showing some examples of clients that had a little bit of water damage. Some also had heat damage, but I'll show you some examples and we'll also go over some of the symptoms. Once you start to notice the webbing in your hair, once you start to notice that your hair is no longer as shiny as it usually is, once you start to notice it's tangling no matter what, especially once you detangle, move on to the next section and it's immediately tangling again, think of it, your hair is now lifted and instead of sliding by, the hair is like Velcro and it's grabbing. And so you're going to constantly get those tangles. Once you start to notice all of these symptoms of like that mushy feel, the cotton candy-like feel, when the hair literally looks and feels too soft, you now have the hygral fatigue, and the only way to fix it is to give your hair protein and to give your hair time. Patience is going to be your best friend. And you also want to find a way to dry your hair 100% on wash day and then focus on leaving your hair dry throughout the week in between your washes. If you need to refresh your hair, I always tell my clients, check your products. Water is usually the number one ingredient. So just apply a little bit of product to those areas or isolate a curl. So just take one curl, wet it where it needs to be wet, and then make sure to scrunch and dry that area just to ensure that all of your hair isn't getting wet and you're going to start to heal from the hygral fatigue. I'm going to have a list of my favorite protein treatments down below. I do recommend that when you are going to give yourself a protein treatment, also do a detox on that same day. Buildup is a whole other topic that I'll save for another day, but that's another issue that I'm really seeing a lot of with all of my curly clients. And buildup can also be a culprit when it comes time to water damage because now you have that extra product sitting in your hair that you thought you rinsed out, but you really didn't. And now you're waiting not only for your hair to dry, but for the product to dry. Also, products have their own pH and it could throw off the pH in your hair, which just leads to a whole issue. I recommend doing a detox on the same day that you're doing your protein treatment just to make sure that you don't have any buildup on your hair blocking that treatment from working. I'm a big fan of bond builders and I'll have a list of my favorite bond builders down below. And I also recommend to make sure you do a detox on the day you're going to do your bond building treatment. I also recommend to do a detox on the day that you do your bond building treatments just because they can be a little pricey and you want to make sure you're getting the most out of those treatments. I cannot sit here and give you a time range on how long it will take to completely fix the hygral fatigue, but I will say that by following my tips, you'll start to notice progress with each wash, especially if you are able to keep your hair from being soaking wet. I will also give you guys a few tips on when you are styling for hygral fatigue. You want to make sure you're working in smaller sections. Make sure that you're using a product that is going to give you lots of hold because that crunchy feeling is actually going to give you a fake cuticle for a little while. Think of it like your cuticle has now been compromised and you want to go in and kind of help your hair and create a cuticle on the outside that will lock in your definition and lock in your shine. I recommend using gels or foams to achieve this because foams are going to stay nice and lightweight, give you definition, but foams like the InnerSense I Create Definition Foam are still a hard hold product, so you'll still be able to get that cast, and then you can just scrunch it out ever so lightly at your ends, which we usually don't see hygral fatigue on the ends because they dry the fastest, and then leave the cast in on your mid links and your roots, and that way it'll kind of give the illusion that everything is okay. When you have hygral fatigue, it's very important to style with intention. You have to understand what's going on with your hair and understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. So remember, the cuticle on your hair. Our hair strands lay down, the cuticle is like this. When our hair is wet, the cuticle lifts. So when you are applying your products, you're going to want to smooth your products down to help to smooth that cuticle down. I usually recommend to use a pinch technique. So as you're smoothing, you're going to slightly pinch the hair and pinch that strand down, and that's going to help to push that cuticle down. Because you're using a product with hold, that's going to kind of lock it in. Most curlies will scrunch out the excess water and product after they're done applying their stylers. If you have hygral fatigue, you're actually going to want to be very careful with this step because think of it, you've just sealed that cuticle down, and then when you go to scrunch, you may lift it back up. So I usually recommend to either skip scrunching or just scrunch the ends, or go and scrunch around your hair and not scrunch up. If you scrunch up, you're going to release that cast that you just created. You're going to release that hold that you just created. You're going to release all of the sealing that you just did. So I recommend to squeeze out products from the outside in, and then as your hair heals, you'll be able to go back to scrunching up like the rest of the curlies do. Another tip when you're drying your hair with Hygral Fatigue is to hover diffuse for, I would say, at least 95% of the time. The reason being, back to what I was saying, if you're scrunching too much with the diffuser, you're lifting the cuticle and you're not going to be able to get a really good cast. So the shine that I am able to get with my clients who come in with severely damaged hair, I achieve that by not disturbing the cast while I'm drying by scrunching. So I usually will set them under the hooded dryer, or we will hover diffuse the entire time until about the end, and then I will gently lift and then just dry right at the roots. Just dry right at the ends, avoiding the mid lengths and roots so that I keep that cuticle intact. So just remember that with Hygral Fatigue, that cuticle is going to be trying to push up. So you might want to leave your cast in at first and just let your hair naturally release the cast as the day goes on. Also, I highly recommend keeping a little bottle of hairspray, Curly Girl friendly hairspray with you so that you can kind of spritz and kind of recreate your cast throughout the day, and this will avoid the frizzy look and this will help to keep in shine. Remember, oils do not create hydration, but oils can lock in hydration. So thicker oils are okay, especially if you want to use them just on the ends. But also remember that water and oil do not get along. So never apply oil to soaking wet hair because then you're going to have a whole weird issue going on. So just really kind of get back to the basics and just really focus on rebalancing your hair, being very gentle with your hair, avoiding heat. And when I say heat, I mean high heat, and I mean flat ironing and blowouts while your hair is healing because it's now locked into its weakest state and you really just want to heal it. Avoid tight styles, avoid soaking your hair, give your hair that protein and moisture balance, and you will find that the curls will start to come back. You'll notice your definition coming back, and you're going to, most of all, notice your shine coming back. I didn't want this video to be too long. I just wanted it to be short, simple, and straight to the point. You guys know how I've always created my content. I like to keep it simple and to the point. I really hope that this video was helpful for you, but if you feel like you need more information, I also offer virtual appointments. So if you are unable to come to North Carolina and sit in my chair, you could also check my booking site for my virtual appointments. I offer 30-minute virtual appointments where we can just sit and talk about everything that's going on. And I also offer 60-minute virtual consultations where we could either talk about everything that's going on and discuss a plan, or some people like to hop on and we kind of walk through a wash day and then they dry off camera and keep me posted on the results. Anything that I could do to help you to gain your confidence, I am here. So thank you again for staying tuned. Hopefully this is the beginning of me getting back on schedule. I have always been a lazy YouTuber and I never stay on track, and I'm really hoping to stay on track this time. I have so much information that I want to bring to you guys, so many new products that I am loving, and just a lot of getting back to the basics. That's what it's all about. I used to be the one that was in the bathroom all the time doing my hair, and now I have more on a simplified routine. It's all about, yes, I want to take care of my curls, but I also want to have all the time to enjoy my curls. And so I just want to bring all that content to you guys. So thank you so much. I'll see you next time.